Hi, welcome back to StoryHive On Location Kelowna. I'm Robb and we're on location in Creston with another incredible episode brought to you with support by TELUS STORYHIve. Today we're sitting with Andrea Revoy, who is an incredibly talented ceramics artist and fabric artist and a bunch of other skills that I'm now figuring out while talking to you, but we're sitting down and learning her story. So
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you. Thank you for having us and bringing
Thank
us into
you.
your beautiful home and getting to embrace your creative side.
Thank you very much for finding me. This is exciting.
Let's start off with who you are, where you're from.
So, who am I? I'm a bit of a dork, but I grew up on Vancouver Island, and in kind of a circuitous route, I made it back to British Columbia by going to the Yukon, and I lived there for a few years, and then I moved to Alberta. And my husband and I moved to Creston in 2019. I was hairdresser so that I could move and work and live anywhere, basically. And over the years, it got to be very, very difficult on my body. It's a hard thing. And so I cut my hours down. I think I was down to 3 days a week, and I decided to take an artistic welding course at Red Deer College because they have like an incredible art series there in the summertime, and they have an art school, and I've already always been artsy, but I thought, let's get into this. And when I got into making like these metal sculptures and welding, and it was just like, this is so fantastic. And I think it was about the middle of August, I thought, I should maybe look into the arts program and go to school. And I think I was 35 maybe. And being in college with a bunch of 18-year-olds is a little nerve-wracking, but I started off wanting to be a painter. And once I got into ceramics and the three-dimensional qualities and how you could just pretty much make anything, and once we started doing sculptures, and it just blew my mind. And I opened up a little studio in my husband's shop, and bought a kiln and bought some tools and just started going crazy. And when we moved here, I was getting so tired of winter and Alberta winter, and we decided we wanted to move somewhere warmer, and he wanted to own a cherry orchard, so we moved to Creston, bought a cherry orchard, and I didn't go back to hairdressing, and we kind of retired, and I've dedicated working full-time in the studio. And that just made my skill set and my artistic practice just like expanded so dramatically. And you kind of start narrowing down, because when you're first in school and things and you're excited about everything and you're using different kinds of clay bodies and you're using different types of applications and glazing, and I like painting on them, and I like building things, and I like adding things, and making tiles, and you're kind of all over the place. So once you can really start focusing on maybe certain directions that you're really excited about, then I started getting rid of functional work and started getting more into sculptural things, which was what I really wanted to do. And because I'd go in the studio, sometimes you just pump out 40, 50 mugs. The next day you got to finish them up, pump out another 40, 50 mugs because you're throwing them on the wheel and things. And it got to be so awful. And I hated it, right? And so I thought, I'm either going to quit this or I'm going to just do what I want, which was sculptural pieces. And that's when I started making these large ladies. I call them retro girls, and they were like covered in flowers. And I had a technique that I learned in college where you took fabric, or like I was using doilies and handmade doilies, and you dip it in clay and you put it on there, and then it gives like a three-dimensional image. Instead of pressing the doily into the clay, I had it on the outside. And as I mentioned earlier, like I was into fiber arts and things as well, and so I was deep diving into that at the same time. And I was making this, I would buy like a full fleece and I would wash it and dye it and spin it into these crazy big huge yarns with all this color and glitter and threads, and nobody would buy it because they didn't know what to do with it. So I started making the hair for these ladies with this yarn and having like stuff just coming out all over the place. Like I freaking loved it. And I sold a ton of them, and then the price, you know, I sell them for $2,000, you know, and starting low and then, you know, getting big. And I'm like, wow, I never thought I would ever sell something that expensive. And I made all those and worked through that process, and then they're done. I don't have to go back to those anymore. And now I'm just kind of working on other things, and I've gotten into my love of like trees. And when I was growing up on Vancouver Island, tree hugger was a negative thing in the 80s and 90s, right? Like, because there was a lot of bad logging things and, you know, bad protesting things, you know, whatever. But now I'm embracing my tree hugger part, and I'm making a lot of trees and sculptures of trees, and I'm planning on making some like 5 and 4 foot tall trees this summer. And I've also been investigating taking prints off trees.
Okay.
You know, like when you take a slice off a tree, like, and then there's ways that you can take prints off the rings.
That's so cool.
Oh, it's so magical. Like, it just makes my, I just get all emotional about it because it's just, I just love these trees.
No, it's a crazy process to hear that you've gone from welding
I know.
to sculpting ceramics, and like not in a regular way either. Like you said, you're doing these pieces that you do small runs of them, and that's what they last. And who has those has those. Mm-hmm. And does that feel like having to like, that process for me reminds me of when I'm like finally ready to release a song and I've put it out to the world and I don't ever have to touch it again, but it also feels like a piece of me is leaving. Mm-hmm. Those being some of the first pieces, how hard was it to separate yourself with those once they started to sell?
So I never separate myself from my work. There's always me in it. But I'm okay with getting rid of things. Like, there are some things that I really, really are very personal maybe that I keep, but I have sold some things out of that series. And if somebody really wants it, if somebody comes along and says, I really feel like I want that piece, and I'm okay with getting rid of it. But there are, like, when I'm working on things, there's times when things come out in that piece that you don't know until later. And I put a lot, like, I can actually spend sometimes a lot of my working time, I cry a lot because I'm making things and then I see something in it and I'm like, oh my God, look at that. I wasn't expecting that. Or, you know, you're working and you get into that flow state and you're thinking of things and maybe it's emotional or maybe, you know, whatever. And I can cry. And there's like days I'm like, I am so exhausted because I have been sitting here crying and working and like just, you know, or some of the pieces can be really personal and you're putting things out there and feelings that you haven't shared with anybody, and you're putting it into your pieces. And the people who want those pieces get it, you know. And I did a series called Trophy Wives, and I like to use a play on words with things. And sometimes when I hear terms, it triggers, you know, ideas and things in my mind. And when I made the Trophy Wives, my ex-husband and I had gone on a trip. We'd bought a small motorhome and we did a trip across Canada. And we were at a rough time right then. And we said, you know, don't go anywhere without your passport and your credit card, because you can always catch a plane ride home. Right? But being in the passenger side, I had a lot of time to think. And I had a lot of time. I had my sketchbook and I wrote, like, I drew and I wrote a lot of ideas down and things. And that's when the Trophy Wives kind of came out. And they were about my experience when our relationship was breaking down and some of the things I'd gone through. And I'd never made serious work like that before. Like, I'd always made humorous things, you know, a lot of chicken stuff, always, you know, like things that made me laugh were where I always went. But these, they were deep and dark, and I bawled like through when I made them. And then when I'd see them drying on the floor, I would just be like, and then I put them in a show, and then I posted them on Instagram for everybody. And I was like scared shitless because I thought everybody's going to know exactly what I've lived through and what I was feeling and stuff. But I got so much positive response from people. And I still have people who will see them. I put them in another show of my own. I did a small mini show of my own work of the Trophy Wives, like before I left my husband, and then after, how my life is now. And then some other pieces kind of came in and out of there that were kind of dark and very personal. And, you know, I had responses from men, from women, about how these pieces just hit them hard, like, and they're very visceral, and, you know, they'd never seen anything like it before, and that they would never forget them. And that was really good. Like, I never know what people see, or when they see your work in a gallery, you never really know. You go hang it up and then you leave, right? And so to get feedback that people would cry when they saw them, or, you know, like, that's big. That's really big for me, considering I usually have, like, you know, cock stars and, you know, goofy shit, you know, like, I think this is called chicky tatas, right? Like, I mean, I prefer to have things that are lighthearted. And so, yeah, you know, that was pretty intense for me.
And seeing the pieces too, they, like you said, they do resonate on a different level with most likely everybody. But when I saw them online, that was one of the main pieces that made me want to come and speak with you, is because there's something there that is deep and beautiful in a way that is dark. And I quite enjoy that style of art, because there's a lot of light in the world, and to understand the light, you have to understand the darkness. There's a beautiful duality there that people, I think, forget. And I think that to make it out of the darkest place, you kind of got to throw yourself into the flames. And I think that's basically what you did with those pieces, because you can see all the emotions that you felt throughout the pieces. And my favorite one is the face covered, because the other two have their eyes covered, mouth open, and the other one has their mouth closed. But just the eye showing, that one hits me. I love that one so much. And they strike thought, and I think that's what art should do. Mm-hmm. So I think that it's really beautiful to see that you going from, like, things that make you happy to be able to let yourself feel all the emotions that you need to produce these things that are helping change people's lives for the better, because they see it, and then art will always reflect with them. And who knows, they may start a career doing something the same way, right? So over your time as an artist, what has been the biggest challenge for you to overcome?
know. I think sometimes it's just finding a place to sell your stuff, right? Like, because, I mean, you could keep everything, but it's hard to find a place that has your type of people. And I've learned like I'm in 6 galleries, I think, right now. And some of them will take certain pieces and other pieces won't sell there. So, you know, I used to feel really bad if I had pieces in a gallery and they didn't sell and I had to take them out. But I think, okay, it's not selling there, so I take it to another gallery and they just go like crazy. So it's just kind of all about figuring out where to take it.
Okay.
I think work-wise, one of the hardest things is to stay true to yourself. I think it's easiest, but maybe also the hardest, because there's a lot of influence with the internet, and you know, you can find anything you want. But it's okay to learn from people and, you know, copy this or like that, or, you know, whatever. We all learn from it, but I think it's keeping true to who you really are and what you really like is, and not to be too influenced by the outside world is another difficult thing.
It really is. That's especially social media nowadays.
Oh God, I hate that shit.
Yeah, as an artist, you're supposed to be able to focus on the art that you have and what you do, and you shouldn't have to focus on always trying to get eyes on you just to get it out there. Like I do kind of miss the old days where you would post a photo on Instagram and it gets seen by lots of people, and it's not like having to like shove it down people's like throats, like, look at my art, because
where's the real?
Yeah, like at the end of the day, that's what kills creativity, is that constant seeking of approval. When the reason like Da Vinci was legendary is because he didn't care what anyone thought. He just did what he wanted to. And I think that really is a true testament to each artist who lasts in time and history with their art, is the ones who really didn't care what people thought, are the ones who struck emotions, thoughts, and in their time. It's always the same thing with like painters, like they're never appreciated in their time. So with other forms of media of artwork, it's kind of a different life, especially with ones that can be broken and like pieces that can break. And that's a whole other realm that I can imagine is a difficult aspect of being an artist trying to ship pieces.
Yeah.
to galleries, right? Because
yeah, so I try and haul all my stuff. You know, I have family on Vancouver Island, so I go out that direction and I take work out there. And you know, the galleries that I'm in are drivable, and a bunch of people in Creston are in some of the same galleries. So we have sort of a route that, you know, it's like, okay, are you going? Can you take some stuff for me? Or, you know, I'm going, can I take your stuff? You know, so that it's really saves on shipping.
Yeah.
Because it's not cheap, and shipping is one thing, but boxing it all up and trying to find a box to fit something or whatever, it's really hard. You know?
I was speaking with, he does stained glass, and he does big work of stained glass, but it's not overly fragile. He's come up with a really unique technique that makes it so it's sturdy, but even shipping that, he's like,
I can't even imagine.
He throws it in the back of his truck and he'll drive it himself before he ever trusts a company with it. No,
because you'd have to like build boxes around it and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Sometimes I think I should go back to fiber, because you just shoved it all in a bag. You know, like you didn't have to worry about it. There was no breaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over the years of constantly working and building your skill sets, as you've developed new forms and techniques, like you try different aspects and things that you find you need to push yourself. So like you're saying, you want to do these 4-foot, 5-foot pieces. Is that going to be a massively difficult process to get that size and scale?
No. So I don't have an issue building things. Sometimes the challenges I have are, oh shit, it's too big to fit in the kiln. So then
yeah, that's kind of what I'm wondering, right? Like a 5-foot piece, how are you going to do that?
So, well, you just build in parts.
Oh, okay.
Right? And then then you just figure that out. That's the easy part. Some of the things that I've built before, I was like all gung ho. I was making this person in a tree, and I had like, it was so cool, and I measured it. That measure twice, cut once thing? That doesn't work with me ever. Like I could measure it 6 times. It's like, okay, was that 27 or 25? So it just never works for me. So my kiln is 25 inches deep, and that's how big I can make things, but this thing, I had to like fire it at an angle, and then I had to it was just, I even cut bits out of it and restuck it back together. And then I still was too big. I'm like, so that's my challenge, is like, I can build anything, and I can make it structurally where it's not going to collapse and stuff. But then I'm like, oh, I just forgot that.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it is it's an art form that I've always wanted to dive into, because I feel that it's being like a hands-on process and dealing with fire, and there's so many elements to it that you have to learn and understand. It's not just sculpting. That's just the basis of it. So it's a really unique form for me, because it's not only has it been around for tens of thousands of years. We've been making pottery since we were Mesopotamia, and before that, we know, right? So it's cool to see that it's still being prevalent and alive nowadays, and being pushed in different directions.
Well, and it's a vast thing. Like, I do electric firing, and I use like basic finishes and things, right? Like on a sculpture, you don't necessarily have to have it food safe. So I don't have to worry about, whether my glaze is going to crack or anything like that, as you would if you were making a cup or a dish. But there's wood firing, and then there's, raku firing, where that's like firing and taking it out and putting it into bins of paper, and, getting different textures for that. And, it's just huge. Like, one person wouldn't be able to do it all, I don't think, unless you were, magician. But like, it's so, and there's different firing temperatures. There's so much. So once you kind of find the route you want to go, then, you can just keep exploring. There's so much.
Have you ever taken classes to learn different cultural techniques that can go with the ceramics?
No. Not necessarily. I've taken lots of classes, but not like that
specific,
direct.
yeah.
Specific.
It'd be cool to learn like ancient like Japanese practices and Chinese practices, because they have different techniques themselves, and to learn all those would be a cool thing, just to understand like, oh man, the historical value of where it actually comes from is just mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, I spent 2 months I think it was 2012. I spent 2 months in North Carolina at a school called Penland School of Arts and Crafts, and my instructor there was Kathy King, and she is the head of the ceramics department at Harvard, and she is big into the history of ceramics, and because everything's about paintings. When you look in art history books, everything is all paintings, or big sculpt, bronze things. There's no pottery, because pottery is like, it's functional, right? So it's like you've dumbed down the dish, and it's where it's still, there's a lot of amazing things, right? But she's really into that. And we did delve into a lot of history stuff with her, and that was interesting, because we didn't really learn that when I was in college. We touched on the big stuff, the big names of painters.
Yeah.
Which is generally men.
Yeah, and that's the downfall to art history, is it is dictated by the times and who was writing it. And that is one thing that does suck, because there's a lot of talented artists that never got the recognition that they deserved. And I always wondered why pottery was never accepted, like you mentioned, as like it's in museums, but it's not as in art museums, unless it is something that is a full piece that has lasted.
Or you go to Toronto, they have the Gardner Museum, which is it's ceramics.
Okay.
Is it the Gardner? I think it's the Gardner Museum.
That'd be cool to see, because it is something that is like, it is a part of our culture. Like when you're discovering and you're finding remnants of cultures, the first couple things you usually find is pieces of pottery. And for me, it's lasted that long. It should be accepted as part of the arts because it is what it is. But yeah, the only things that really last is paintings and massive sculptures.
So some of the finishes I use is called terra sigillata.
Okay.
And what that is it's superfine clay particles that are suspended in water. And it was actually used by the Greeks.
Cool.
So when they made the pots that had like they were red and they had all the black kind of images of people walking around them and stuff. So it's the same stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. So I just add colorant to it or some different oxides and things for colors. But yeah, it gives a really nice kind of earthy kind of finish to it that I really like.
Have you, like over the time you've worked with building mugs and cups and stuff like that, have you ever gone to do like elaborate vases and stuff like that as well?
I have. It's just not my bag. You know?
I find that's when we were discussing watching you do your process, and in my mind naturally I'm going to think the foot wheel and like, you know, you're doing that, and I'm like, I could never do that because I would destroy it in 2 seconds. Like I'm not my hands are too big and floppy. Like they're just not intricate that way.
Well, you know, it's a skill you learn. Like, you know, it's just a technique. And, you know, you can learn it. I did make a vase right there in that thing with all the roses on it.
Oh, wow.
So that would be, you know, my thing. But, you know.
Because there's so many different forms you can dive into,
you can
right?
just do it's
like so
nonstop.
much, yeah.
So
You actually start to think about it. It's pretty mind-blowing. Like you were mentioning, you were redoing your house with tiles that you made, and that blew my mind because I'm like, I didn't even think you can produce your own tiles and do what you want.
Yeah,
like, you can do whatever you want.
I know. And so those tiles are they're not just flat, they're three-dimensional. You know, they have all the vines and the leaves and stuff on it. So I really had to plan out, okay, so here's the cut once, measure twice thing. So there's outlets on your wall. And some of my tiles, you cannot cut them to fit an outlet on it because they're too raised up with leaves and things. So I had to really plan out where these outlets were and leave like empty tiles in some places. And in the corners, I planned out leaving a couple rows of empty spaces, empty tiles, so that if we had to move things around, then, you know, as it was, we had to shift some of it over to make it work. The tile guy had, Jake, he was phenomenal. He was so excited to do this project, but I'm like, dude, we cannot break any or we're fucked because I cannot go and make another one with these vines and things in it, right? So I'm like, we only have this. So he's shitting himself. I'm laying everything out and getting it in the order. He's putting it on because he's the professional and gets it all perfect. And when we finished, I looked at it and I started to cry because I'm like, I made all this, right? Like, and I'm looking at it, how incredible it looked. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, oh, I'm making him uncomfortable, right? I talked to him later. He goes, yeah, I was trying not to cry too.
No, I was going to say.
It was just like this massive project. Like, and I only have a certain size of table, so I couldn't just lay it all out and make them all at the one time. I had to do this part, and then I had to do this part, and then I had to do this part. And so I had it all kind of drawn out. And I actually did it all freehand. I only had the outlets kind of laid out and you also have to consider shrinkage of clay, right? So you might have like this big thing, but then you got to consider like there's just so much. And I was just, but it turned out, well, so there was one fuck up. So I did this one first wall, I did it as a test, and I did it in 2 different glaze colors. And I thought, oh yeah, that looks cool. I'm going to do that on the rest. Well, then I forgot what I'd done. So then I did the whole other piece, and I thought, okay, if I've done this differently, I got to glaze them all at the same time, because sometimes if you leave it a few days, the the specific gravity of the glaze changes, you know, what you're doing changes, and then you can have like it just doesn't look the same. And so I had to glaze everything at the same time. Thank God, because that whole piece is all the same glaze and the other little wall is different. I'm like, high five, Andrea, you did it again.
That's awesome. The fact that the tile guy was even holding back tears just goes to show that it's like, as a person who's worked trades, like that would be the type of job I would love to do. It's just those unique, creative, custom jobs that are one-offs that you can never do again. Because he's never going to be able to do that, but that job right there is going to be one that he always looks back on him and is like, that was one of my favorite jobs ever. So,
oh yeah, it was. We had a good time with that. It was, but it's, I mean, it's highly stressed too.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, because they are fragile and you can only do it once. It's not like you're buying boxes of it. That the complexity behind it becomes a little more than just putting up tiles. You're building and creating a living piece at that point, because it's living with what it's given, the wall space, how it shrinks, everything, all the variables that come behind that piece of art. Because it's just tiles, but at the end of the day, it's a piece of art.
Well, yeah, and so one of the biggest things too is to make sure that they're square. So they're not going to lay flat because of the way that I've got like 3-dimensional pieces on it. I cannot weight them down to keep them flat. So they're going to have curved edges, but if you can have like them as square as possible, at least that takes one thing that's easy, or that's consistent through it. Like you can always have like level lines and stuff, but it's so much more helpful if they're as square as you can get them.
Yeah, I can imagine. And that's kind of why I love classic homes, like old school homes, where they did like the stonework themselves, and you can tell like they did it to work with the house, not built to a cookie cutter foundation aspect, right? And that's like kind of why I think handcrafted is so much better at the end of the day. And I think that there's the whole world's kind of coming back to that handcrafted, because we kind of like last 20 years has just been like, let's buy online, buy online, buy online. Now people are starting to realize everyone's got the same stuff and no one's got their own specific taste that is unique. And the only way to find that is to go out and find unique artists and people who do the work that you want, right?
Yeah, so I actually bought tiles, these Italian tiles for our bathroom in our other house, and I bought them because they looked handmade and they were very expensive. Like, it was ridiculous how expensive these tiles were, and they probably just tumbled them in a freaking rock tumbler for a little bit, right? And I thought, holy shit. But they were lovely, and that's what was so interesting about them, was that because they weren't perfect. They weren't like the white subway tiles that everybody had. You know, they were just a little bit rougher. And I love that. And so to have my kitchen, all those tiles in there, I look at it and it's like, yeah, I did all that.
Did you ever do a mural?
So if we go to my studio, I've done a mural on the outside of my shop.
Okay.
All of ceramic tile. And it's, I think it's about 5 by or 6 by 5 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did that last year. And when we look at it, so there's a chair out front in front of a window, and looking in the window is an orchard. And so it's like my new life looking back at my old life with our cherry orchard and stuff. So I've got like this chair, this big poofy purple chair, and all these flowers and plants and things. And then, so my garage, or my studio, used to be a 2-car garage. And so I got rid of the garage door. And so there's all this like that Tyvek paper stuff. So where that paper is, I'm going to tile the whole thing. So I've made this big mural, and then I'm going to build out of ceramic like a wisteria that goes up the side and goes over top of this, and then there's going to be the wisterias hanging down, and I'm going to tile around all the windows and stuff. And you know,
I love that. See, like, it's cool watching the spark in your eye when you're thinking of these things that you do and you want to do, right? Like that passion that shines through. And it's like, it really goes to show that creating big pieces of art versus creating mugs and stuff is where you're meant to be.
Totally,
Yeah.
right? Like I don't want to slit my wrists every day making mugs.
Yeah.
And I still will. But now the mugs that I make are like little sculptures.
Yeah.
You know, everyone is different and everyone still has, and I work slow. So I can maximum make like 12 a day, you know, and then I got to finish them the next day kind of thing. So it's a lot slower process, but a lot more interesting to me and a lot more heartfelt.
And I mean, at the end of the day, people will pay more for something that is, you can only do 12 a day versus being able to do like 200 a day. Because if you start making it like a production line, it starts to take away from that value. That's where Gibson lost its credibility as a guitar company, right? They stopped making hand guitars, and that's kind of where it's always better to just stay true to what you do. And if you end up becoming way too overworked, like,
figure it
crank
out.
up the price. People are going to pay for it if they want it, right? So.
Yeah, and if you're like, when I was ready to quit because I didn't want to do it anymore, hated what I was doing, like, I thought, okay, I didn't need to do it for the money because we were, it was fine. I didn't need to. I was married and we were fine. But it gave me a chance because we were financially stable, was that I could decide what I wanted to do. And if I wanted to spend a year making sculptures and see where it was going to go and if I was going to keep doing this or not, I thought this will be the test. And it's turned out, you know, great. So, but that being said, I just had to change the transmission in my truck, which cost me $9,000. So now I'm like, okay, that's like 100 mugs. So we better get our ass in gear and, you know, or 200 if I sell them through a gallery. So I'm like, okay, I got to make 200 mugs.
It's a cool way to think though. Like this is where I love speaking with entrepreneurs and creatives, because we're not meant to be stuck in that box to be worker bees. Like,
no.
That drive right there will make you fire up and maybe even create something new that you didn't realize, right? Like, and that's
totally,
that's the coolest aspect, is like, okay, well, I got to push myself now. Like, no one else is there for me. I got to do it.
Well, yeah. And when you're like, when I was throwing all the time, I wasn't as expansive creatively as I am now. Like now I'm like, okay, I'm going to make these trees and then I'm going to make this tree and then I want to do this. Like I'm also working on pieces right now in a collaborative show. A couple of years ago, I did a residency on Vancouver Island, and I met a woman there called Patricia Coulter, and she's a painter from Cold Lake, Alberta, and she makes these huge, big, flowy, abstract paintings. And we started talking and realized like she wanted to do a show, or she was thinking about a body of work based on home, Carry Me Home. And I had been wanting to reinvestigate the house shape. And so we started talking and I'm like, oh yeah. So, you know, blah, 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 big things. And we're doing this collaborative show now. And hopefully we'll get some places to show this, but I'm working on those pieces right now. So it's like houses, trees, and just where I can take that work, you know. And we've got a blog set up where, because we also want it to be interactive with people, so we've asked people to give us their interpretation of home, because it's different for everybody. It's not always nice, you know, and maybe it's safety, maybe it's like awful. So we've asked people, and we've been getting some, because it's anonymous, you know, we've been getting some really, really lovely, heartfelt messages about what home means to people. And I hopefully will be able to incorporate some of that stuff too into our work. Like, yeah, I'm still working on some
That's a
things.
really unique concept of what is home.
It's
And it
a
is
thought-provoking,
different for everyone,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because it can be nice and it can be not nice.
It could be nothing too for some people, right? And
Yeah.
that's the weird thing, is like,
Yeah.
each person has their own way of it, and that is a beautiful way to go about it. And to reinvent the way a house would look is a kind of a cool concept.
Yeah.
Right? Like you were saying, the darker Dr. Seuss, and I just like picture the buildings that could be, because there is realistically, like, creatives have always pushed the boundaries. And I think like we're supposed to do that. And to see somebody who has moved through these different directions, and now is like, it's just funny to see where you're landing on. Like starting off with like chickens and cows and working towards the trophy wives, and then to the other pieces. It's just like, it's really cool to see where your mind works and how it works, because you're a very creative person, but you're extremely smart. Like there's gears in there that turn that I don't think other people have. You know what I mean?
There's a lot in there that not a lot of people have, that I'm keeping really tight.
Yeah, because like listening to the way that you speak and the way that the passion comes out of you, it's like you can just see that that is you. There is.
Thank you.
You couldn't be anything else. Like you are who you're supposed to be in this moment in time, and it's beautiful to see.
Thank you. I over the last few years being on my own, I've realized that I can truly only be me. I can only be authentically me. Mm-hmm. And this is what I would say to, because you'd ask me what I would say to like young people or whatever, or other
aspiring artists, is
don't let anybody ever tell you what you can and can't make. Only make what you want to make. I don't give a shit what it is. I'll show you outside. I make freaking some crazy stuff. But don't ever let anybody tell you what you can and can't do. Do what is truthful to you, and you will always be successful. You'll find your people. You know, like the people who get me will find me, like you. Mm-hmm. You like the stuff. So, you know, I don't really have to try too hard.
No. I literally Googled Creston artists, and it gave me like the AI overview that it usually gives. Gave me Richard Reeves, you, and a couple other people that I reached out to, and you two were the only ones who actually got back.
Oh, nice.
But when I saw your artwork, I was like, I need and hope she gets back to me. Like I was like, please.
Oh, nice.
Because even the conversation isn't always what I expect it to be. Mm-hmm. Like usually I'm walking into it with a general idea of who I'm speaking to and what they do, but the person that you have a conversation with always tends to be different than the perception you walk in with. And coming into it, I was like, she's an eccentric, creative person, 100% right, but your eccentricness is beautiful, and it takes pain and turns it into this like authentic beauty and masterpieces. Because I've never seen work that's like yours. I've seen a lot of people make work that's cutesy,
yeah,
but not thought-provoking in a different element. Because I think this is what's needed. Like I keep saying, it's just that's what art is for. Is what we're meant to do, is inspire a new generation. And I think there's a lot of art forms that are dying. In the sense that they're not willing to pick it up because they're just not being introduced to it. As where us growing up, we kind of saw it in every aspect of life, because the schools would push it because there was no television, there was no social media. So it's nice to see and meet people who are creating, I don't want to say old skills, but making them new. Like you and what you and Richard are doing, for example, is taking something that is nobody would think about and creating magic that makes people go, oh my God, you can do that? And I think that that's an amazing thing.
Thank you. It's hard because, you know, I spend so much time by myself, you know, and I work alone, and I find you're in your head so much. You don't always get a lot of time to talk about this stuff with people. I talk to myself a lot. I'm a really good conversation in there. But you know, it's thank you. It's really nice to hear things, to validate what I'm doing, because I'm just going to keep making what I want to make and what I do. What makes me happy. I always tell this. So a number of years ago, I swear I hadn't laughed for like probably 5 years. So one day I thought, I got to do something. and I made this ceramic penis, and I colored it rainbow colors, and I call it the Rainbow Ding Dong, and I gave it its own Instagram page, and I took it around and took pictures of it in like weird settings, and took it like the chiropractor's office. I took it all over, and I would post it on Instagram, and then I would have a conversation between myself and the ding dong, you know. It was so stupid. It made me laugh so hard. It was like, okay, this is what I need. And last year, or a couple of years ago, I started making, I was at a friend's house, and they have some crazy art. And they had these huge salt and pepper shakers from Amsterdam. And I looked at them and I thought, oh, that would be the ding dong. So I started making these rainbow ding dong salt and pepper shakers. And I call them, there's like Super Pecker XL and Short and Salty. They come in 2 sizes.
That's
and
so funny.
I made like, my friend Gary and I, we were designing all these logos and stuff. And I did the Freedom Fist with the ding dong. And you know, like I spent weeks and months sharing these things with my family and friends and laughing. I mean, I think they're the only ones who really got any of them, but like, it was just so funny. And I think, who cares? If it makes you laugh and it's not hurting anyone or whatever, like, just go for it. Like, it was just days of, my friend Gary is just insane. And so he and I would just, my stomach would be hurting. I'd be laughing so hard, trying to work, trying to do oh, anyway, you'll see them. I got a whole wall of them.
That is so funny. And it's like, to be able to give yourself that joy after, like you said, 5 years. It's a long time.
It's a long time.
It's a long time to not laugh. And it's like, and I think people don't understand what goes on behind creatives' minds.
No.
Like, a lot of us deal with dark pasts, mental illness, things like that, and that's why we gravitate towards being creative. It's the outlet that allows us to be free and express ourselves. And I think that's also why people who don't deal with it resonate with it, because it's something that's different to them. They don't fully understand or grasp the pain, that pain concept, because it hasn't hit them yet. So when they see something that's thought-provoking or a little edgy, they're like, ooh, what is that? Then once that happens to them, or there's something in their life that happens, then it really, now I get it. And I think that's the one downfall to living nowadays, is you usually see it before you understand it. And then by the time you understand it, it's so gone because everything else is just being thrown in front of you, that it's kind of hard to like take a moment to embrace what other people are feeling. And that's kind of why it was nice to speak with the Film Society about seeing perspectives from around the world. And it's nice to talk with people who have taken, like I said, their pain or what they've dealt with and create masterpieces, because that, to me, at the end of the day, is like the ultimate win.
I hope too that it inspires people to do their own thing. Like when I had my pieces in Kimberley at my little mini show, and it was, you know, I talked to people about using ceramics in my process of working through my traumas and using it as your art therapy. And people were like, well, how can I do that? You know, and I said, you can do whatever. You can draw it on a piece of paper. You can paint it. You don't have to be like a full-blown artist. You can burn it when you're done. Like, just get it out. And like those trophy wives, they were in a bin for a few years, and I was gonna smash them all or go hang them in the forest somewhere, you know, like I was going to destroy them. And then I thought, no. So I hung them in my kitchen around the corner where I couldn't see them, but I could go and visit them every now and then. And because when I first moved into my house, I was extremely vulnerable and extremely like just wide open, and I would just go around there and I'd look at them and I'd just bawl, and then I would, okay, I've had enough. So then I'd come back. But over the years it's gotten better, and I can actually go and talk to them or talk about them with people and show them to people, because they're so just out there for me. And now I actually appreciate them, and one day maybe I will smash them and get rid of them because their job is done. You know, I don't need them anymore. But yeah, they're a very, very heartfelt reminder of my past life.
I think they could help a lot of people, and that's what I like about them. And there's a lot of, like, I don't find a lot of art that really hits me and makes me think. Those ones do. Like, I love art. I appreciate it, and I can understand what artists are doing, but to actually click and resonate with something, it takes a lot for me to be like, I want that on my wall, or I want that in my house, or like, wow, that really makes me like stop and think about life, right? So those pieces to me are really magical. And then even the funny ones, like your comical pieces to me are magical too. They're absolutely hilarious because there's these little quirky things that you wouldn't think about that are like, of course it's there. Why wouldn't it be there? Right? Like the cow, for example, or the pig is like one of the funniest, like bejeweled udders and stuff. So it's like, for me, it's like those are the little quirky things that make me laugh, that also show that the duality, right, of your artistic mind and how it works. If there was anything that you could change within your art industry, what do you think it would be?
Maybe making ceramics a fine art instead of a craft. Like, because ceramics is always kind of, unless you're making like, I don't know, I don't even know, but I've had people ask me, you know, like, are you making art or is it a craft? I'm like, fuck off. Like, everything is a craft, or, you know, it's, who cares? You know, but it's, something I did learn though is, when you put things on the wall, it elevates its status. So that's why, another reason why I build things to go on the wall. Even if it's just like a wall cock or that cat head or whatever, as soon as you put it on the wall, it's like, wow, look at that. So it's stupid, but
yeah,
you know,
it's not. That's how your brain works. I'm trying to think of an artist that you remind me of, but it's kind of hard to, because there is nobody else that's like you, right? Like, your brain is very unique, and same with the pieces you make. And I think that getting it out there would be, not even necessarily getting it out there, because it is out there. You're in galleries and you're doing it. It's just, it's so unique. It's the only word that I can really state for what you do.
Thank you.
There's no, never seen anything else like it.
Well, when we go out to my studio, I have this triptych of chickens, circus chickens, and it was all like, it started off, I call them Cirque de Poulet. And so there's like, I took those chickens and have like put them on everything, and then I would make little hanging chickens, and I always put the little rhinestone titties, and you know, they have little tutus and red shoes, and you know, like, it's just really fun. And I remember I was trying to put some pieces in a show in Alberta or something, and I kept thinking, I don't know what to make. And then I was driving to the hardware store, and something came on the radio about Cirque du Soleil, and I was like, oh, Cirque du Poulet. And then I had to pull over, and I'm just like writing and drawing, and I'm like, oh yeah. You know, and it just, everything just, and then it just exploded for years. I made, and people still ask me for those little flying chickens, so I may have to revisit that this year. I think.
That's hilarious. I love that a single phrase can inspire something.
Yes.
That's what I love about it, and like the wordplay that you have. It's like, for me, it's like a hip hop version of a ceramic artist, because you like hear these things and you're like, double entendre. I'm turning that into something else, and like, it's just genius.
Thank you. Like, I made this one. It's called Full Speed Ahead, and it's basically a scooter with a lady on it, but her head's in the basket, you know. And just, I don't know, I like goofy things like that Elvis chicken, and
yeah, he is absolutely funny.
Yeah, and you know, Elvis was a cock star. Just, yeah, it just, to me, makes it more fun.
Yeah.
even if it's a bit dark, right? Like I make these little sculptures. They're called the Badge of Honor, and it's basically a vulva. But that's it's my feminist art. It's basically, yeah, that's the one that I think looks like a creepy Dr. Seuss. It's very colorful, but it's kind of rough, but fun. They have little crowns, and some of them have piercings, and
Yeah, the way that your brain thinks is very comical and has like these unique little. You look into like the little cracks between the phrasings that really like no one would else would have thought of things like that, right?
Well, and what's funny is ever since, remember the beginning of COVID and everybody was making videos, and there was a really lot of fun, creative people who were doing like goofy shit. Like it was so awesome. And every now and then I come across somebody who's made a phrase of something and I'm like, yes, so clever and so funny. I'm like, I need that. Like that's the kind of stuff that I love is, like you just said, you take it and just expand on it.
That's perfect.
So, yeah.
Well, we can wrap this up and dive into the actual process if you want to.
Sure.
And then, because I'm excited to see what you've got going behind the scenes. Because getting to walk through the house, you get to see all the amazing pieces, but to see where you are now is going to be like really exciting. So
sure.
We'll be right back, and we'll be back in a couple seconds.